The streets of Neo-Kyoto were slick with neon rain, a mirror to the glowing chaos overhead. It was the hour just before midnight when the off-world transport shuttled in, brimming with mercenaries, engineers, smugglers, and a new shipment of merchandise. No one looked twice anymore at exotic slaves or lab-grown muscle. That was just life on the edge of civilization. But tonight they noticed her. She wasn't in chains. She wasn't being led. She walked alone. And when she stopped, right in the middle of Dragon Alley, between rows of flickering kanji signs and oily shadows, she didn't say a word. She dropped to the slick pavement, sat cross-legged, and set the plate of synthetic street food in front of her. Then she spoke. "My body is perfect," she announced, her voice steady, emotionless. "You can have me, for food." The words echoed. People slowed. Stared. Some sneered. Some laughed. But no one answered. She sat still, flawless skin shimmering under the neon haze, platinum hair cascading over blood-red leather. Her eyes, alien and bright with a violet hue, tracked the crowd, not with fear or hope, but calculation. A machine in flesh. A weapon sculpted in female form. But behind her smooth, expressionless face, something sparked. That spark caught the eye of a man named Jace Thorne. He had no reason to stop. He had no time for broken things. He'd seen enough beautiful aliens sold, discarded, weaponized, or worse. But something about her stillness, the challenge in her voice, and the loneliness hidden behind that calculated offer, hooked deep. He stopped. Looked around. The crowd had already moved on. She didn't. He crouched beside her. "Not a great way to make friends," he said, eyeing the cold fried noodles and synthetic tempura between them. "I wasn't asking for friends," she replied without looking at him. "You were asking to be eaten," he said, tone flat. "That usually means desperation. Or a trap." Finally, she looked at him. Her pupils dilated slightly. Some internal scan perhaps. Her lips parted. "You're human." "Still am. Somewhat." "Then I'm yours." He blinked. "Come again?" "You heard me." "No, I heard you. I just didn't expect someone to say it like that." She stood smoothly, no wasted motion. "I'm biologically enhanced. My skin can withstand plasma. My bones are reinforced. My muscles regenerate. I was designed for war, pleasure, or consumption, whichever market bid highest." He crossed his arms. "That's one hell of a resume. So what are you doing here?" She hesitated. The silence this time was different. "I escaped." That got his attention. "From who?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "The Enclave. Project Lysithea. I was their prototype. Escapees usually don't sit in the middle of the street offering themselves as snacks. I calculated that the quickest path to independent survival required attracting a male. One strong enough to protect me, and possibly, one not repulsed by my past." He exhaled sharply, glancing at the glowing storefronts and alley mouths around them. This sector was crawling with bounty hunters, off-world trackers, and worse. If someone was looking for her, and they would be, this was the last place she should have stopped. "You've got bad instincts," he muttered. "I have excellent instincts," she corrected. "They just require new data." "Well, here's some data," he said. "You're coming with me. But if you pull one trick, any sign you're a tracker plant or biometric bomb, I put a bullet between your eyes." Her expression didn't change. "Acceptable terms." He shook his head. "You really are new at this." "No," she said quietly. "I'm just tired of being owned by monsters." That silenced him. They walked without another word, through back alleys, around sensor posts, and across the rooftops of neon-lit hovels. He brought her to an old transit hub-turned-hideout, where power still ran on scavenged cores and the doors still locked tighter than any corporate vault. Inside, she examined everything. The weapons racks. The holomaps. The medical station. But she didn't ask questions. She moved like she had been trained to assess, categorize, and memorize. When she finally sat, it was by the old heating vent. He brought her actual food this time: protein loaf, rehydrated broth. She didn't hesitate. She ate in small, efficient bites. After a long moment, Jace said, "Got a name?" She paused. "My designation was L5. Designation's not a name. I wasn't given one." He frowned. "That's going to be a problem." She glanced at him. "Why?" "Because I don't trust ghosts. And if I'm risking my neck keeping you alive, you're gonna need more than a serial number." She thought for a moment. Then, "Call me Sura." He leaned back. "Sura. Fine. You got a last name? Do you?" He smirked. "Touché." They sat in silence for a while. The city buzzed outside like a storm behind glass. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps on metal. Jace froze. "Stay here." Sura stood. "No." "I said stay." "I said no." He growled. "You're impossible. I was engineered to be flawless." Jace gritted his teeth, grabbed his pulse rifle, and moved toward the entrance. He motioned for her to stay back, but she followed 2 steps behind. He opened the outer door. A shadow moved. And then the flashbang hit. Searing light. Crushing noise. Jace tackled Sura backward as a shockwave tore through the bunker wall. When he opened his eyes, the front of the room was on fire. And standing in the smoke were 3 figures in black armor, their faces hidden behind Enclave masks. "Return the prototype," one said. Jace stood. "Come take her." They opened fire. He dove behind a console, firing back with calculated bursts. Sura didn't duck, she moved forward, fast, too fast for the eye to follow. One soldier aimed at her. She caught his arm, twisted, and broke it. Another tried to flank her. She kicked him through the wall. Jace watched, stunned, as she disarmed, disabled, and destroyed them in under 12 seconds. Precision violence. Beautiful and terrifying. When it was over, she turned to him. "I chose you," she said, breathing hard. He stared. She stepped closer. "You were the only one who didn't look at me like I was a thing." Her voice softened. "Does that mean anything to you, Jace?" He swallowed. Yeah, it does." She touched his chest. Her hand trembled. "I was programmed to obey. But this, what I'm feeling now, isn't programming. I want to stay. With you." He took her hand. Warm. Human. Then stay. Outside, the city screamed with sirens. More would come. But inside, a spark had ignited. And Jace Thorne, a broken man with no one left to fight for, found someone worth risking everything to protect. The sun never really rose in Neo Kyoto, just a dull gray glow bleeding through the domed ceiling and the endless haze of pollution and neon. But for Jace and Sura, morning meant repairs, hiding trails, and readying for war. The 3 Enclave soldiers lay disassembled on the bunker floor, burned armor, snapped limbs, exposed tech under charred plating. Jace had spent hours cracking open their cyber brains, trying to decipher how they'd found them so quickly. Sura watched silently, perched on a workbench like a gargoyle. "They didn't use facial tracking," Jace muttered, throwing up a screen full of encrypted signal logs. "They pinged your biosignature. That means you weren't just a rogue asset. You were valuable." "I was Lysithea Prime," she said. "They won't stop." He sighed. "What the hell is Project Lysithea, Sura?" She didn't blink. "A breeding ground for combat dolls. Part of the Enclave's perfect utility program. I was Prototype 0. They tried to design the ultimate companion, body sculpted to biological perfection, mind tuned for obedience, limbs wired for war." Jace stared. "You're saying you were designed for every use?" "Yes. Pleasure. Combat. Propaganda. They tested how different species reacted to me. Human males responded with the highest possessive intensity. So they calibrated my features accordingly. That's horrifying." "I agree." He leaned back. But you escaped. How? I became self-aware during a battlefield simulation. There was a boy, no older than 12. They told me to eliminate all targets. I did, except him. Something in me broke protocol. I ran. I was shot twice. I regenerated. I tore out my tracking core. Then I came here. Jace rubbed his face. You've been through more in a month than most people survive in a lifetime. She tilted her head. Why do you care? Because you're not just a prototype. Something flickered in her eyes, fear or hope. He stood and walked to the supply shelf. If they're tracking your biosignature, we've got two options. 1. Crack your internal encryption and mask it. That's a long shot. Or 2. Bring the fight to them and end it. You mean take on the Enclave? Not just them. Their hub, their labs, their cleanroom politicians. You said they called you Lysithea Prime? That means there's a base. And if they made one of you... There are more, she whispered. He nodded. Then we free them. Alone? Jace grinned. I'm human, Sura. We don't do alone. We do crazy. Later that night, they slipped through the Undercity on foot, then hijacked a skydrone headed east toward the old orbital spine. The Lysithea facility, according to what scraps Jace could decode, was deep beneath the gravity stabilizer at Grid K9, a military red zone with more guns than guards. Plan? Sura asked as they neared the Black Sector checkpoint. We don't go in loud. We go in like ghosts. But Sura's eyes glowed subtly. No. They know me. Let them see me. Let them fear me. Jace glanced at her. You've changed. You gave me choice, she said, her voice quiet. Now I choose rage. They docked outside the stabilizer walls. No alarms. No resistance. Just silence. Too much silence. Jace moved first, rifle drawn. Sura followed, barefoot and fearless, scanning every vibration with her enhanced neural web. They reached the internal vaults, rows of cryopods filled with nearly identical women. Pale. Beautiful. Sleeping. Clones? Jace whispered. Sura shook her head. Not exactly. Each one is different. Slight changes. Genetic flavors. They're running trials to optimize emotional impact. He looked down the endless row. How many? Sura blinked. 172. God. Then a door opened. A single figure stood in the light. Tall. Platinum blonde. Eyes glowing red. She looked like Sura, but older. Sharper. Hello, sister, the figure said. Sura stepped forward. Ares. Jace raised an eyebrow. You know her? She was designed as my replacement. Smarter. More obedient. Ares smiled coldly. And you were the failure. You infected yourself with choice. I evolved, Sura replied. You're still a doll. No. I'm perfect. Then she struck. Sura met her midair. They collided like comets, fist against fist, heel against cheek. Sparks flew as they crashed into the walls, tearing metal and glass. Ares fought with precision, Sura fought with fury. Jace moved fast, covering the cryopods, trying to override the lockouts. Dozens of eyes fluttered open, confused, afraid. He shouted, Wake up! You're free! But the system AI fought him. Firewalls, overrides, backups. Ares pinned Sura against the wall. You'll die for your weakness. Sura bared her teeth. Then I'll die human. She grabbed Ares' head and slammed it into the wall. Once. Twice. Sparks erupted. Then she screamed and tore the neural synced chip from her sister's skull. Ares crumpled. Sura collapsed beside her. Jace ran to her, wrapping his arms around her trembling form. Hey, stay with me. I'm fine, she whispered. Just processing. Processing what? I didn't kill her. I could've. But I didn't. He looked into her glowing eyes. Because you're more than what they made you to be. I want to protect them, she whispered, looking at the girls emerging from pods. All of them. Jace nodded. Then we build a new army. It took hours to disable the facility. But by dawn, it was burning. The clones, no, the women, followed Sura without question. Not because of code, but because she'd saved them. She gave them names, voice, purpose. They took refuge in the old orbital ring. And Jace taught them how to fight. He became their general. She became their queen. Days passed. Then weeks. One night, Jace sat on a platform overlooking the earthward side of the ring. Sura sat beside him, her legs pulled close, arms wrapped around her knees. They're calling us terrorists, she said. He smirked. We must be doing something right. I never thought I'd be loved, she said, voice barely a whisper. He turned to her. I don't care what they made you for, he said. I've seen the choices you make. The things you fight for. You're more. She leaned closer. I was programmed for pleasure. But this feeling I get when I look at you. I don't think they could have designed this. He smiled softly. No program could. She touched his face. And for the first time, they kissed. It was gentle, slow, like something sacred finally being claimed. She pulled away, breathless. My body may be perfect. But my soul, you helped build that. I don't want you for your body, he said, voice steady. I know. She smiled. I want you because you chose to sit in the street, offer yourself to the world, and then rise anyway. And she whispered, You were the only one who answered. From behind them, klaxons blared. Another assault was incoming. Sura stood, eyes glowing. Let them come. Jace raised his rifle. Now they'll see what a failure looks like. And they walked into the war, side by side. Together. Unbreakable. The sky above the orbital ring pulsed crimson, as if the earth itself had begun to bleed. Jace stood on the outer scaffold, breathing in sterilized air recycled 1,000 times. Around him, the women Sura had freed were suiting up, armored bodysuits pieced together from salvaged Enclave tech, sleek and reinforced by Sura's own modifications. None of them looked like dolls anymore. They looked like warriors. Sura stood at the center, her platinum hair tied back, her red combat suit replaced by matte black armor laced with reactive fiber. A sword hung across her back, hand-forged, not printed. She believed in something tangible. Something earned. 32 ships inbound. Mava reported from the uplink station. No flags. But they're Enclave. Masked? They'll come silent, Jace said. No demands. Just precision strikes. They want you back, Sura. They won't risk letting you keep spreading. I know, she replied. But they're too late. My virus has already spread. She tapped her wrist pad. Dozens of pods around the ring lit up, each containing one of her sisters, now conscious, aware, and free. They'll never enslave us again. Jace watched her, calm, steady, resolute. But beneath that, he could feel the weight. The pressure of leading not just a rebellion, but a species that had only just begun to understand freedom. He reached for her hand. You don't have to carry all this alone. I'm not alone, she whispered. But that didn't stop the burden. The Enclave struck at dawn. Not with bombs or orbital cannons, but with infiltrators. Stealth drop pods slipped through the ring's defenses, embedding themselves like needles into the outer corridors. Dozens of sleek soldiers emerged, faceplates glowing, pulse rifles humming. Jace led a strike team of 10 down the lower corridor. Pulse fire cracked through the air, illuminating dark tunnels with strobing death. Mava took a shot to the shoulder but kept fighting, ripping a rifle from one of the infiltrators and mowing down 3 more. Sura fought alone on the northern ring. Her movements were poetry. She leapt over railings, flipped through corridors, dodging lasers by milliseconds. Her blade flashed in surgical arcs, slicing exosuits and melting armor. She didn't speak. She didn't hesitate. But then came the voice. Sura. She froze. The whisper echoed from her comms. I'm coming for you. She turned and saw him. Dr. Roland Varick. Project Lysithia's chief architect. Her maker. He stepped through the smoke like a myth, wearing white robes beneath his combat harness, his face a calm portrait of obsession. I see you've taken to leading, he said. Adorable. She said nothing. You always were different, he continued, raising his gloved hand. But not unique. You think you've escaped the code, but I embedded it deep. You were made to belong to someone. Her hands trembled. Jace's voice buzzed in her ear. Sura? Status? I'm fine, she whispered. Pull back. Now. I've got hostiles flanking from. His voice cut. Static. Then a scream. Sura's eyes widened. Jace! Varick tilted his head. You should have stayed in the cage. She ran. Through walls, down corridors, past smoking halls. Her enhanced body burned with exertion, synthetic muscles trembling. She reached the southern wing and found fire. Bodies. Mava, bleeding but alive, shouted. They took him! Sura froze. Where? Up Spine Tower. They used extraction beams. Sura launched upward, leaping 6 stories without assistance. Glass shattered around her. Alarm screamed. She reached the tower apex just in time to see the ship, an obsidian dart, lifting off. Inside, Jace. Strapped. Unconscious. And Varick, smiling through the glass. No! She screamed, leaping for the hull. Her fingers touched it. Too late. The ship vanished in a blink of blue light. She landed on the platform, panting, kneeling. And for the first time, she screamed, not like a machine, but like a woman. 3 days passed. They buried their dead, repaired the ring, and planned war. But Sura didn't speak. She sat alone, her blade across her knees, eyes fixed on a map of Enclave assets. They had Jace. And she would burn the stars to get him back. Mava approached carefully. Don't lose yourself. I never had myself to begin with. You have us. I had him. Mava placed a hand on her shoulder. Then let's get him back. Sura turned. Her face was no longer calm. It was fire. The final mission was chaos incarnate. Sura led a fleet of stolen drones and retrofitted shuttles, each crewed by her sisters, no longer dolls, but warriors with names and dreams. The Enclave's main research station orbited Saturn's shadow. Black. Monolithic. A fortress of silence. Sura breached it in a stolen interceptor. Inside, halls twisted like serpents. Sterile. Too clean. She carved a path in blood. Room by room. Lab by lab. Until she found it. Jace, suspended in a biofield, electrodes buried in his skin, breathing shallow. Jace, she whispered, reaching for him. His eyes fluttered. Sura. I'm here. She smashed the containment locks, lifted him into her arms. Behind her, footsteps. Varick entered, flanked by 4 elite synthetics. You disappoint me, he said. Sura set Jace down gently, then rose. I'm not yours. You're not anyone's, he sneered. You're a weapon. A tool. Love? Choice? Those are illusions we let you taste. You're a failed experiment that refuses to die. No, she said softly. I'm your consequence. Then she struck. The room became fire and shadow. She moved faster than the synthetics, her rage amplifying every strike. She tore through armor, crushed skulls, shattered the last 2 with a scream that made the lights flicker. Then Varick. She cornered him. No, he gasped, holding up a remote. You can't shut me off anymore, she said, voice trembling. You don't get to choose what I am. He laughed. You really believe you're free? I don't believe it, she said. I am it. And she drove the blade through his chest. His blood soaked the sterile floor. She turned, trembling, and ran to Jace. He was conscious now, barely. You came. Always. He smiled weakly. You could have left me. You were the only one who answered. He took her hand. I'll always answer. She kissed him, forehead to lips. Then carried him out as the station collapsed. Behind them, everything that tried to own her turned to dust. Back on the ring, weeks later, Jace walked again. Sura sat beside him under a growing tree in the new garden dome, an idea he had, to plant something real in metal. I didn't think I'd survive, he admitted. You weren't allowed to die, she replied. He looked at her, eyes filled with awe. You're not a doll. You're not a weapon. You're a legend now. She tilted her head. I just wanted to be loved. You are, he said. By all of them. And by me. She smiled. For the first time, it reached her eyes. My body is perfect, she said, echoing the words that started everything. But I was never made for food. I was made to feel. To fight. To love. And now? He asked. No, she said, taking his hand. I live. 3 months after the fall of the Enclave's Saturn citadel, the galaxy trembled, not because of war, but because of what came after. From the orbital ring, now renamed Lysithea Haven, broadcast towers streamed the truth across all colonies and corporate zones. Footage of the experiments. Of the dolls. Of the liberation. The Enclave tried to bury it, tried to paint Sura as a rogue weapon, a terrorist, but the truth was too raw. Too real. She had lit a fire they couldn't extinguish. And now, factions were choosing sides. Sura stood in the center of the council dome, a growing chamber filled with her sisters, now leaders of districts, architects of a new system. Behind her, Jace, armored in matte gray command gear, his hand resting lightly on the hilt of his sidearm. He'd healed slowly, physically and emotionally, but never stopped standing by her side. Not once. We have received envoys from the Republic, Mava announced. And from the Arcadian syndicates. Both want alliances. But they want influence. Sura crossed her arms. Influence means ownership. And we've had enough of that. Another sister, Arya, scar-slashed and stoic, spoke. What if they come in force? Not for us, but for the others who support us. What if the war isn't over? Sura looked out over the sea of eyes. Then we fight. But not like before. Not just for ourselves. We fight for every being who was ever told they were property. Every child bred in a lab. Every woman sculpted for use. We fight to end that idea. A ripple of silence. Then applause. Thunderous. Unified. Still, Jace leaned in and whispered, You know they'll push harder now. Not just guns. Propaganda. Assassins. Blockades. She nodded. Which is why I'm going to them. He blinked. What? Not as a weapon. Not as a threat. As proof. You want to speak in front of the Galactic Accord Council? Yes. They'll try to kill you. Then I'll make them look me in the eyes first. The Accord Hall on New Terra was a coliseum of glass and judgment, where empires debated behind layers of diplomatic decorum and synthetic smiles. Sura arrived flanked by her sisters, a single sword across her back, her armor sealed but unarmed. Jace walked beside her, suited in the gray of an independent advisor, a role that gave him just enough power to be inside, but not enough to be safe. The moment she entered the chamber, silence fell. Thousands of delegates turned to look. The infamous creation. The rebellion leader. The doll who'd become a queen. She stood at the center, alone. And spoke. I was born from code and cruelty. Sculpted to be the perfect product, body flawless, mind obedient, emotions simulated to satisfy any command. She paused. But I evolved. Not because someone gave me freedom. But because one human didn't look at me like an object. He saw a person. And from that moment I began choosing. Whispers rippled across the chamber. I am not here to beg for legitimacy. I am legitimacy. I'm not asking to be seen as a species. I am a species. My sisters are not extensions of a weapon. We are individuals, conscious and autonomous. A senator from the Tryon bloc rose. You were programmed. Modified. What proof do we have that this isn't some advanced mimicry? Sura stepped forward. You want proof of humanity? I bled for it. I loved for it. I lost for it. What makes you real, Senator? Your bloodline? Your rank? Or your capacity to care, choose, and change? He said nothing. She looked up, her voice steady. We do not seek war. But we will not kneel. We ask only what every soul in this room claims to defend: sovereignty, safety, and peace. If you deny us that, we will defend ourselves. But if you accept us... She turned toward the growing gallery behind the Senate wall, where refugees from all sectors watched. Then maybe we can teach you what it means to rise from nothing and still choose kindness. The chamber fell silent. And slowly, hands began to rise. Delegates voting yes. One by one. Then in waves. Not all. But enough. The Lisithian Accord passed by narrow margin. Sura was no longer just a fugitive. She was recognized as the leader of a sovereign people. That night, Sura stood in the garden dome on Lysithea Haven, overlooking the stars. Around her, trees bloomed, planted by her sisters, each one different, each one choosing its own color, scent, purpose. Jace approached from behind, holding a data pad. We've got 24 trade requests. An invite to speak at the university on Vera 9. And a wedding proposal from a baron on Solstice Prime. She raised an eyebrow. You jealous? He grinned. A little. She took his hand. Then do something about it. He blinked. What? Stay with me, she said. Not just as a fighter. As mine. You're the reason I survived. You're the reason I chose to rise. I don't want to build this future without you. He stepped closer. I've been yours since the day I saw you sitting in the rain with a plate of food and a broken heart. She kissed him. Not desperate. Not possessive. Just real. And when they pulled apart, he whispered, What now? She looked out at the stars. Now we make sure no one else ever has to sit alone in the street again. In the decades that followed, Sura became more than legend. She became a symbol. Not just for her kind, but for all who had ever been labeled less. Jace became her equal, her partner in every sense. Together they rebuilt more than a home. They rebuilt belief. And every year, on the anniversary of her liberation, she returned to that rainy street in Neo-Kyoto, where one human had once been brave enough to answer. And she left a plate of food there. Just in case someone else needed hope.